Okay, the final part is now in session. Before we get to my worst SpongeBob episode number 1, here are some dishonorable mentions. Good Neighbors. In this episode, Squidward wanted to have a good and relaxing Sunday, but SpongeBob and Patrick done fucks it up. In Money Talks, Mr. Money Talks. In Money Talks, Mr. Krabs wishes that money can talk, and the Flying Dutchman appears, and then all of a sudden, after when the Flying Dutchman appears, Mr. Krabs wakes up from a bad dream after when he thought it was pixie dust, and when Mr. Krabs and the Flying Dutchman made an agreement of his wish coming true. And then he realized that money did talk to him, and then Dutchman cheated on him because the monies wanted to be spent rather than to be sociable to him. And then in someone's in the kitchen with Sandy. Plankton steals Sandy's fur so he can get the Krabby Patty secret recipe. And Sandy is completely furless, and everyone was making fun of her. And then Sandy comes and she fights with Plankton, and after when she won, the police arrest her for no damn reason. And hide, and then what happens? SpongeBob and Patrick were playing a game called hide and seek. Patrick didn't know what it was, and then he explained. But Patrick goes to his house, and SpongeBob tries to find him, but he couldn't. And in the end he finds Patrick Not Star, which is a very stupid name. And then he realizes that Patrick had been home the entire time, and yeah, that was a very stupid episode. So yeah, without further ado, here it is. The worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode is A Pal for Gary. This is officially the worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode ever. In this one, SpongeBob feels completely guilty for leaving Gary inside his home. So, he finds a good pet for Gary, although SpongeBob thought it was a good pet, and then he takes it home for Gary. And Gary has a pal. Gary didn't like it because it was like vicious. SpongeBob didn't believe Gary's story at all. Because he thinks that Fluffy is innocent. But then chaos happened. When he was making his burritos sing, Gary tries to warn SpongeBob, but SpongeBob neglects everything what Gary's trying to say. And then one night, Fluffy became like this monster. And then he wrecks the entire house of SpongeBob. And then SpongeBob wakes up the other day and he realized that the house was a complete wreck. But what does he do? Instead of blaming Fluffy, he blames Gary instead. So, SpongeBob blames Gary for a very dumb reason. And then SpongeBob's like, bad boy Gary. And Gary does his best to save himself and to save that monster from SpongeBob. And after when he saves SpongeBob from this giant monster that SpongeBob didn't believe exists. SpongeBob was like, "What do you have to say for yourself, Gary?" And then he takes him to the Krusty Krab, and yeah, you get the point. Okay, what is wrong with this episode? I'll tell you what's wrong. First of all, Fluffy is a complete giant monster. He was not capable of being Gary's new friend. He's like this giant monster that just wrecked SpongeBob's house, yet he blames Gary for everything. And SpongeBob does a very shitty job of being a pet owner. I'm surprised that he still has Gary. I'm surprised that he still owns Gary as a pet as well. Even when he blamed Gary for no damn reason, when Gary was the innocent one. When Fluffy was the actual monster that was trying to eat him. SpongeBob should have blamed Fluffy instead. Fluffy was the one that wrecked SpongeBob's house. Fluffy was the one that caused destruction. Fluffy was the one that wrecked SpongeBob's house to begin with. And Fluffy was the one that made SpongeBob's burrito, or whatever the fuck it is, cold. Oh my god. These directors had no intentions of how to make a good episode. They just made a shitty script, and the director's like, "Oh, you know what? That fits perfectly. We're gonna do an episode of something like this right away." And yet they greenlit this episode, and that's how unimaginably god-awful this episode was. SpongeBob blames Gary for everything for no reason at all, when he should have blamed Fluffy instead. And Gary rescues SpongeBob, but SpongeBob was very ungrateful. Instead of saying, "Wow, Gary, you saved my life," we get this. What do you have to say for yourself? What the hell? I'm sorry. This episode should have never existed in the first place. This episode has a very bad influence to children. This is definitely the worst. This episode will do damage to all of us. It is gonna do some damage. I'm surprised that SpongeBob even has his pet snail Gary still. I'm surprised that they didn't even took Gary away. If one person saw how bad Gary had been treated, and SpongeBob was like, "Bad boy Gary, bad, bad," they should have called someone on him and take Gary away from him. And I bet SpongeBob wouldn't like it one bit. SpongeBob, use your head. God gave it to you for a reason, SpongeBob. To freaking use your head, brain, and head. Use your common sense of what's going on. Don't blame Gary for this. Gary's innocent, and he's supposed to be your pet, and you're supposed to take care of him. But you treat him like shit? Unbelievable. Oh my god. The director... Oh my god. This actually spits in SpongeBob SquarePants... in the SpongeBob SquarePants history. It actually spits in the SpongeBob SquarePants history. Oh my god, this episode was such a waste of time. Oh my god. This is definitely the worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode ever. SpongeBob had no sense whatsoever what's going on, and he blamed Gary for everything. instead of Fluffy. I don't know why people decide to greenlit this episode. It's so atrocious. Words cannot describe how awful this episode was. This episode was atrocious. And it's very mean-spirited as well because of how SpongeBob treated Gary. It's awful how he treated him in this episode. So yeah, my number one worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode ever is A Powerful Gary. I've seen lots of bad SpongeBob episodes from seasons 5 through 9, but this one takes the cake. It is definitely the worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode I've ever seen, and it always will be. This is definitely the worst. It is the worst of the worst. The writing, directing is complete shit. SpongeBob had treated Gary so bad and very mean-spirited too. Fluffy gets away with everything. And SpongeBob is truly ungrateful for Gary at the end. And he takes him to the Krusty Krab for no reason at all. Oh my god. So yeah, A Powerful Gary is definitely my number one worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode of all time. It is indeed the worst one ever. I really hate A Powerful Gary so much, the episode. Worst SpongeBob SquarePants episode ever. Period. Alright. Thank you so much for watching my top 27 worst SpongeBob SquarePants episodes. And yeah, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to me. And let me know what are your worst SpongeBob SquarePants episodes are. Or let me know in the comments down below what are your worst SpongeBob SquarePants episodes are. And yeah. This is me signing off once again. It's Jonathan, the Disney fan here, signing off, and I'll see you guys next time. And peace out, y'all. And thanks for watching.